Hello and welcome back to a Tap Project podcast. My name is Hanif Knight and I'm here with Hugh Knight, the two co-founders of the Tap Project. Hugh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you? It feels like it's been a while since we did a podcast here.
It has been a while. It's been a little bit. There's been a lot have been going on in the crypto and blockchain development. But before we get into that and before we get into our show today, just want to remind everybody that we are not providing any sort of financial advice or crypto advice or anything like that. We're just two crypto blockchain co-founders talking about the state of the union and kind of the state of projects and everything, and lending our ears and listening to you guys and providing some sort of feedback and giving a little bit of download into what is going on into the Tap project. So today we have a pretty interesting show. We're going to be trying to do a year wrap up for 2018, which has been a great year for us in the Tap project. So we're going to be wrapping that up. We're going to be discussing a couple different things in new articles over the last couple months, because as Hugh said, we haven't been able to do a podcast for the last little bit. We've been heads down into development, so we've had a little bit of a time to make sure that we can do a wrap up for the year, just to give you guys a little bit of what's been going on and kind of where we are and where we're going to be going through. So we're going to be talking about a couple different articles that were released, one in November, a couple throughout the month of December, and then a couple that just came off over the last couple days with some tokens looking like they're either laying off or shutting down at this point. And then we'll be discussing our article that we released in early December about the Tap sponsor program. So let's hit it off. Hugh, you had a chance to look at, we're going to be discussing, I guess, the state of the crypto union, so to speak, and the state of blockchain versus the state of, what normal people see is the market value. So we want to differentiate those today, but obviously you've been able to see kind of what's been going on the outside, eh?
Yeah. It's been a lot. There's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of movement. There's been a lot of good, bad. There's been a lot of bad, but in actuality, it's good for like the stabilization of blockchain in itself, and the technology. It's sort of a mixed bag of emotions all over the place, right? It's just like one minute you're happy, and the next you're like, oh no. But in all things, for us, we're still heads down and just trying to power through and get as much features and stabilize the platform as much as possible, and improvements, and just a lot of stuff going on inside the project and outside the project at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's important to note as well, like we've discussed this all the time, and we said it from the very beginning of kind of how we're doing it. Don't let price dictate what the blockchain technology can do, right? Like we need to really separate those, and I think this sifting of the pot, so to speak, is really shaking down and reaffirming that kind of statement, because just because the prices might be declining or something does not mean the technology is not declining. We have seen huge groups jumping into blockchain technology over the last few months. Google and Amazon have jumped in to say that they're going to be taking some sorts of the blockchain technology and using it onto their platforms, into their systems, which is great to hear. Someone like Amazon, I feel like that would benefit, just in terms of tracking packages, all that stuff. But those two things are just because Google's coming in, or Amazon is coming in, or they've been in already for a couple years, that doesn't mean the price is going to go up or down, right? So we need to differentiate this, and I think this bear market is kind of helping people see really that it's all about the technology. And Vitalik said it himself. There was a lot of hype, and people are coming in and talking about, oh, there was hype about these tokens, and whether the hype, they don't know if the hype is good or not. But we really need to get back to the point, as we always said, we always focus on development first, because development will speak for itself. We don't control price. We don't, really. This is really the first time we're talking about this, but we really want to make sure that we're bringing home the point that just because we're in a bear market, so to speak, for crypto does not mean that blockchain technology is going anywhere, or does not mean that blockchain technology is going down as well.
Yeah. It's sort of you sort of have to look at it as like any kind of game mechanics, right? You got the start, you got the middle, and then you got the end. So we're no longer in the start, which the start is like, everything's being thrown at you, everything is new. And now you've got the middle of the game mechanics. Let's you know you've got things being removed. You got stuff being buffed. You've got stuff being nerfed. Um, it's just the way it goes, right? So when we look at what's going on in the whole blockchain space, for example, on if anybody remembers last one of the podcasts that we had on patents, if you notice that still hasn't slowed down, right? There's still tons of blockchain patents being filed, tons of blockchain patents, being put forth. IBM is still powering through. You've got different banks for blockchain. You've got what did I see this morning? I can't remember. I read an article, but there's multiple stuff. So when you look at it on the other side, yeah, the price is taking a hit, but you've got to look at the technology, like you said, right? The technology is still powering through and driving forward. And that's sort of the key. They're one and the same. You can't have one without the other, because one is the driving force for the other, and the other is what's needed to continue.
So this actually kind of leads into another segue and another point, and we're going to be talking about one of the tokens or one of the blockchain products that kind of came about over the last couple of years, whereas 2016 and kind of flourished in 2017, which is Steemit. And just at the end of November, we saw Steemit announce a huge layoff of 70% of its employees due to this kind of market, or due to kind of thinning down. And I guess that's kind of their way of ensuring that they kind of go with the long term. It's kind of very interesting to see Steemit do something like that.
Yeah, like everyone said, you gotta brace yourself. Winter's coming, right? So it is one of those scenarios where they're looking towards the long term, right? And in order to do that, you got to reserve as much as you can, right, to try and weather this bear market, like you said. And so the first place they look at it is like their operational costs. And so when you look at operational costs, you have to start cutting. It's unfortunate, but it's sort of the way of the business. And you got two options, right? You can slim down and hang in there and push forward with the core of development that you need, or the core infrastructure that you need to continue, or you could just lock up shop. And so for them, it was kind of reading about it and looking at it. It's looking for the long term and push through and see what happens.
Right. And theirs is a little bit different than kind of what we'll discuss a little bit later on, but theirs is kind of related to price, as we've talked about. So we kind of obviously wanted to separate that, but theirs is almost really just because of the fact that, for those who don't know, Steemit is about kind of like a news article kind of place where people can contribute, they can write, or they can read, and those writers do get paid in Steemit tokens or coins, and they get paid off of that. So they're kind of relying on price at some point to obviously pay out people that are reading or writing, or whatever it might be. So they're kind of a little bit different than what we talked about just a while ago, but that's a big hit for blockchain, and obviously for Steemit, and we hope obviously the best for their product and for the platform, and for obviously their workers and stuff like that. So we won't kind of hit on that one too hard, but that's really going to be the rest of the price for our that's going to be it for pricing on our show. The rest is really going to be talking about blockchain and kind of the new developments and what we saw, and what I'll lead into, and we won't talk too much about it, but it's going to jump into our next segue, is kind of the SEC decision that was announced in mid-November. And why I bring that up, and we don't obviously like to talk about them too much because they should not be kind of controlling what's going to be happening in the blockchain space, and they should not be kind of dictating where the blockchain space is going. But at this point, this is what we've been dealt, and it seems like on a short-term basis until someone stands up to them. This is kind of where we're going. But in mid-November, they issued a kind of like a settlement for 2 tokens. You guys can read up on them. They're on the SEC website, AirFox and Paragon Coin. And the reason, as I said, we don't like to bring them up too much, but the reason why we will be bringing them up is because this kind of dictates what other people have done. And so they essentially have said, these specific 2 coins have been labeled as securities, and that they are to return their funds to investors. And with that note, in mid November, we saw just on the 13th basis, kind of a offshoot of stablecoin, launch and say that they are going to be shutting down, a complete shutdown, not a layoff of people, but a complete shutdown. They raised $133 million in a financing round, and they are essentially announcing. You can go look at it yourself on basis.io. We obviously want to say do your research when you're looking at these things, do your own research, but they've essentially announced that they will be shutting down and that they will no longer be continuing. They will be returning their funds, whatever they have left used outside of development, to investors, and that's it. They're calling it finished. And some of the reasons, they're not saying because of price. They never mentioned price or anything like that. So this is different than Steemit. They are essentially saying that I'm going to read exactly kind of from their website, but as regulatory guidance start to trickle down, they came to consensus to avoid security status, that this would be the best way to kind of continue with their product and with the blockchain. And they are essentially saying that they've tried to look at different paths, and nothing kind of leads them to a good outcome if they continue at this point. And they obviously have a sincere thanks to everyone who supported the project, but they essentially just say until next time. So that's what they essentially say. So Basis Project, as they said, right smack on their website, Basis Project will be shutting down. So that is fairly big. And you know what? I think it's going to be the start. It's going to be the start of something, as I said, for projects kind of, getting the chokehold, so to speak, and kind of getting to a point where they're going to be forced to shut down and have no other ways of getting around it. And this is exactly kind of one thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's it's tough because stablecoins have seemed to be in every article these days, kind of driving forward. And there's been a lot of good stuff, and then you kind of get this, right? But you said it's sort of this, it's sort of becoming the norm, because when you get caught, and I won't go into this too much because everybody's got their opinion on this, and we've got our opinion on this. But when you didn't have a standard kind of set out before, and then when you start trying to set a precedence, and then you're saying that, hey, it's not even starting from this point, it's starting from when everything started. You kind of got everybody in a bit of a black hole, right? Because now it's like, okay, well, it's tough to do anything, right? And I think that's where some of the projects will end up getting frustrated. It's like, well, there's not much we can do other than just
kind of finish. And that's kind of that point, right? It's kind of like, well, you can play the game for as long as you can, but really that's going to just be killing the product at the end of the day and your project. If you kind of want to be going back and forth and playing that game and trying to get around it, how much are you gonna, like, it's like that one step forward and 3 steps back type thing, right? Like, you can always take 1 step forward, but where do you go? And obviously they've deemed that they can no longer take any steps forward, because they'll just be taking steps back at this point, and that's it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like when you have 133 million and you spend 70 million on that on lawyers and fees and stuff like that, you're not really, that's a lot, both on both ends. But how much resource are you putting towards the product of their project at that point, right? Like you have to shift all your resources just to kind of get by this thing, and then by the time if you do figure something out, you've got nothing left, and all your resources been pretty much depleted. And what do you do at that point, right? Like you just, yeah, you're
Yeah,
sort of left.
you are definitely just sort of left. So that's what they'll be doing. And just kind of on an article that we saw today, um, status
Oh man.
is gonna be declining or laying off 25% of their staff, and then it's just continues. It's literally just every day. Something is just continuing, or some token or company is saying that they are laying off, and we don't. You gotta we kind of have to sympathize, and we do totally understand where they're coming from, because when you are laying off people or when you are closing down shop, it's not just you, it's not just your project. There are people that are involved as well, and people that count on jobs and stuff like that, and people that believe in the product. And when you believe and you're kind of so far in, and then stuff like this comes out, it's not the greatest. But at the same time, we do feel that there's some long term, there's ability to prosper in the long term here. So yeah, we won't jump in too much on that, because we obviously don't want to kind of beat it down. But status is
Yeah.
another huge one, for the industry too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's tough. From you understand the business perspective, right? But like you said, there's also a people perspective. So it's not by any means an easy decision. And for us, when we read the article, it's sort of the oh snap moment, because status is big. But then on the flip side, you're like, that's tough. It's not just like, okay, well, just cut 25%. Let's keep moving, right? It's 25% of the people that sort of spend their time and effort and put a lot of energy into and believing into the product. It's not to say that they've completely stopped believing, right?
Yeah.
It's just not a easy decision. When you're sitting on both sides of the chair, either kind of getting the news or giving the news, it's nobody wants to be in any of those seats.
Right.
So we're definitely not pounding on any projects or anything like that, because I think everybody's in the same boat, to be honest, right? And it's at that point in time where my belief is that projects have to start getting together and sort of pooling together. Even in this decentralized world, companies have got to kind of centralize a bit and see how they can help each other weather this storm. Because at the end of the day, the more successful projects and the more successful businesses that come out of the blockchain world, it works out better for everybody, right? So at the
Yeah.
beginning, it was sort of like, grab as much land as you can, take as much as you need to be number one on top of that ladder, beating everybody down, get off. But it's it's sort of matured into, hey, I'll help you up, and then you help me up, right? How can we make this entire thing as successful as possible?
Yeah, and let's not be ignorant to the fact that we've seen this in traditional businesses before. We have seen this exact same thing, whether you want to call it dot-com bubbles or anything like that. Like, we have seen these businesses, successful businesses today, lose 90%, 80%, 70% of staff or of value, anything like that. We've seen strong businesses flourish. after they've seen like an 80% decline in whatever they're doing, whether they're a public company or a private company, or just kind of, no profits for years or months, and then kind of boom, they're back up again. So let's not forget that this is not something new. It's new to the crypto market, just because there was a lot of new people coming in and a lot of new money and a lot of different ideas and products coming out of the last couple of years. But this is definitely not new to traditional businesses. So let's not say that this is down and out for all these guys who are laying these things off. We can just literally in the next few months, next year, we can see these guys back up at where they were. It's not something that they cannot overcome, right? So
Yeah, for sure. It's not all doom and gloom, right? Like this isn't, like you said, this isn't new territory. This is
this is
business.
old territory.
Exactly. It's old territory. It's a way of business, and a lot of time it's just kind of reining back and then regrouping and then powering through and then getting back to that point, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, if anybody's listening and saying like, "Oh man, this episode's such a downer," it's not, right? It's the reality of things, and the reality of things is that a lot of them, just because they say that they're decreasing or downsizing, they're not done. They're not down and out.
Unless they said that strictly
Yeah.
like basis. Unless they said until next time, like they're
We're
gone.
done. Yeah, those ones are done, but everybody's trying to do as much as possible to we've seen a project that's sort of said, okay, well, unfortunately we can't go any further, but we're willing to give what we can in terms of like the materials that we built or this and that. We're willing to give it to someone to continue it,
And
right? So
that was a gaming token, and we've reached out to them. So if you are listening, you have any community members that are part of that, hit us up.
yeah.
We've reached out to you guys, and we definitely would want to kind of continue join forces together, whatever it might be, and kind of help that game flourish, so to speak, because we're all in it together. We're all blockchain gaming, and we kind of obviously want to jump and support each other.
Yeah, for sure. And that was our thought was like, hey, like let's see what we can do together with this and sort of keep it pushing because at the end of the day, is said the more projects, the more businesses that cross the line when the winter sort of breaks, the better it is on a whole for the entire environment, the entire blockchain space. So projects should be looking towards each other to say like, hey, what can we do to make sure that we kind of cross this line together or cross this finish line together, and not really look at like, all right, well, that's one less to worry about, right? Because one less to worry about now, it is one less to think about when everybody starts kind of shining the spotlight on blockchain and deciding if, hey, is this the technology that we're gonna keep around, right? It's like Blu-ray and Betamax and all the VHS and DVD, right? It's that type of deal of bicycle versus car versus plane, right? You know,
That's a good point to Nate. Blockchain is just kind of like that. It might not be the be all end all, but right now it's technology that we can use and that we can use in a great way. But we just have to show why it's better and why kind of it's gonna stand the lengths of time or not get beat out by other products or other kind of technologies, right?
exactly.
That's definitely a good point to make. That's something to keep in mind. So for the last little part of the podcast, we'll jump onto our TAP sponsor program and kind of a wrap up in this year and all about TAP and kind of what it means going forward. So for those who haven't seen, please check out our Medium page. You can also find it on our Telegram and on our Twitter. The TAP sponsor program, and this is a lengthy article, not lengthy, but it's a couple minute read, and it kind of describes a little bit of what's been going on in a little bit of the state, and we've had some kind of some changes going through. But essentially, what this means is we've had some people, ask some questions, or whether they didn't understand it from the beginning or they're a little bit concerned. But what this essentially means is those who contributed to us during its early stages of the Tap project and program, those they will receive a return of the ETH, specifically for development, that wasn't used for development. They'll receive a percentage of that back to their ETH wallet. So we've had some people say, oh, how do we get that started? There will be a form that will be sent out to our community members that will kind of provide a little bit of instruction to just confirm that they do still have access to their initial ETH wallets, and go forward from there. But I encourage everyone to check that out, because there is some details in that. And if you do have any further questions on that, or do want to ask a few questions, feel free to send us an email, contact at tapproject.net. Join our Telegram, t.me/tapcoin, and continue the conversation there. But this kind of leads into our wrap up for 2018. It was a great year. It was a huge year for us. Let's not this is a great time to give us, the community, the team members, all our developers, Juego Studios, everyone who's joined with us, a huge pat on the back and a round of applause. Insert round of applause snippet right here. Oh yeah, right. Like, this is a huge
it almost needs that like slow clap into like the standing ovation, like just uproar kind of deal, right? Like, when you look at it, like, we've achieved quite a lot this year. Like, I'm super proud of everybody, like the team, the community for the sport, like everybody. Yeah,
it has been great. Like, we've done, just to name just a couple of things, but we've seen the launch of the Tap platform, the Tap wallet, the Tap publisher, whether it's sandbox environments, the both Unity and Unreal plugins, the release of Stuntrunner iOS, the joining of the Ethereum Alliance, the joining of the International Gamer Developers Associations, Full Indie Summit speaks, talks, Vantech Network pitches, and more. We've seen so much growth within the last year, so much increased development within the last year, that we're super excited for what this means for 2019, and we know that this can only mean more for us. And kind of, we've seen a growth of Tap platform users. We've seen a growth of community members. It has actually been a great year for the project. And even though we're one of the smaller kind of groups or projects out there, we've seen exponential kind of growth in terms of development of the project. We're super happy. We're thankful. We're humble. We understand kind of what we need to do in the next year, and we're super excited to kind of see from that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, there's just been so much. And, I got to congratulate you, Mr. Co-founder. I think we've looked and just continue to take a look at everything that we do. And we ask ourselves, is this something we really need to do? Should we pivot on this? Do we keep kind of the course and go straight? We've pivoted here and there, made adjustments and tweaks, the things you need to do. And I think we've made them at the right time, at the right moment, in order to give this project as much of a chance to get into as many hands as possible and be as successful as possible. And I think even kind of looking ahead for next year, there's going to be more pivots, right? There's no doubt there's going to be more adjustments, more tweaks, more changes, both on the business side, on the development side. But our goal of keeping it, pushing it forward, and kind of bringing it to the mass and the mainstream hasn't changed. We want to get gamers gaming and gamers being rewarded for gaming. That's it. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And that, for those that will jump into our program or read the about the Tap sponsor program, Um, we're doing what we can, and we're doing the best that we can for the project. We want this project to survive, and you'll see in there that it does state that we're going to be shifting some angles, and part of that is returning a portion of those funds that weren't used in development, is to ensure that we kind of shift the angle for as best as we can, to ensure the survival of the project. That's the last thing that we want to do, is we want this project to survive, because we feel that it has great opportunities for change, for disruption. We've always said that we want to disrupt the market, and we don't intend on stopping. And we are going to be going in for the future of 2019, looking at acceleration programs and equity crowdfunding. So we're going to be looking at different ways, whether they're traditional or not, to ensure that the project has longevity and is in the best state for success. So
Yeah. And I think one of the community members said it best, right? Like, what we're trying to do is take it from a project into a business now, right? And it's always been a business, but we're looking at, it's just the natural growth, right? It's like a baby. Like, you get this baby and try and figure out what to do, why it makes noise, and and then as it grows, you make changes and adjustments, and then it's still your baby, but it's gotten bigger and larger, and you have to feed it more, and you have to teach it new things, and it's like that, right? So we've taken our from this inception of the seed of like, oh man, it'd be cool to like play games and like get rewarded for it, into like, it's doing that now. Now how do we get that into more people's hands? How do we sustain? How do we stabilize a bit more? How do we grow? How do we make it stronger, right?
Right. And it's not to say, one thing that needs to be understood is that there will be bumps, and
Oh yeah.
just because somebody might, I read it on one of another token that was closing out, just because someone, just because a project or an idea might fail does not mean that it's unsuccessful.
Yes.
It's very important to know those two things might be totally, completely different. For example, Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team the first time, but he's now known as one of the greatest players in the world, or as was one of the greatest players of the world. So just because he failed at one time does not mean that, oh, it's over. MJ, he's done, right? So just because, we might shift to a different angle, or just because a project might, say, okay, we're going to be jumping out of the kind of the investment space for blockchain, and we're going to be seeking kind of traditional investment spaces, but we're still going to be using blockchain. Those are two different things. It shouldn't be said that you have to use kind of, blockchain investment spaces to flourish a blockchain company. That they're totally two different things. So whatever you need to do, for those who are kind of listening, do what's best for the project. If you believe in your project, if you believe in kind of whatever your goals or anything, you might do what's best, seek it out. And some people always might have a little different opinions as of what they believe is right or wrong, but as long as you keep the project or whatever you're growing best in mind, that's really what's going to help at the end of the day, because you're going to do what you can for it to survive, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, like, you know, you make wrong decisions all the time, right? Either as a founder, co-founder, employee, just in life, like, you're not going to make all the right decisions all the time. And I think where it becomes a failure is if you don't learn from it, or take the time to kind of review and figure out the lesson in it, right? So, like I said, just because something didn't work that time, doesn't mean it was a complete failure, right?
Nope.
You know, we
100%.
look, yeah, we look at like, launching, spaceships into space, like, first one, sad to say, kind of blew up, right? They're like, all right, that's it, we're stuck, right? But you kind of go back and you look and you alter. Now we're launching rockets and we're landing them on like moving, ships in the ocean, right? So you look at the advancements and you say, okay, well, it didn't work. Um, sometimes you got to turn off the lights and sit in the room for a bit and think about it, and then once you've kind of learned the lesson you need, you turn it back on and you kind of keep powering through, or you take a pivot or a change. Like this is life, this is business. This is the world we live in,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that's really what we're seeing with all these blockchain companies. I think that's literally what's happening, and I think that's literally what the space is going through. People are just taking a step back and really going to be like, okay, what next few steps do we need to make to ensure it's best for us? No, let's get out of the hype train here. What next few steps are we going to take? And that's where we are. And that's really a complete wrap up for 2018 and what we're seeing. And that's going to be it for our show today. That is going to be it. And I just want to say, obviously, again, thank you to the entire community, the Tap community, gaming community, crypto community, blockchain community, our team. Thank you, anyone who we've worked with as well. Thanks everyone for 2018. It was a great year. It was thanks, co-founder Hugh Knight as well. Thank you. It was a great year for us. We had a lot of great times, and this is just going to be the beginning for us. And it's funny. We always run it into our seasons, right? This is season 4 or whatever you might call it. It is what it is. You run it like that, and there's that there's going to be beginning, middle, and end. There has to be, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And
it's like a TV
it's just
series,
like a TV
right?
series. So you have to say, this is it for season 4, and 2019 is going to be season 5, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
New characters, new hoops and
New
loops,
plot
new
lines.
plot lines. It's going to be. We never know what's gonna hit at us, right? Where the bad guy is, Oh man, it's gonna be good. So
Yeah.
we just want to wish we just want to wish everyone a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas if you guys do celebrate that, or just enjoy December and enjoy the time off and spend some time with family. And that is what some of us are going to be doing for the next little bit. As you know, we are in North America, Vancouver here, so Christmas season is upon us for North America here at least. And so a lot of us are going to be spending some time with our family, and so we please forgive us if we do take an extra minute to respond, just because we will be encouraging our members and our team members to spend some time at home, spend some time with family, because it's been a hectic year, and obviously give thanks. And yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's and in even in the community, we thank the new members, and then we want to thank the members that have been there since day one, like
Day one.
Yeah, we just special thanks, right? Like
We
continue
know who
supporting the
you
project.
are.
Oh yeah, you know who
Yeah,
you
and
are.
you know, 100%, no faking it. We know who the day one members are from the beginning. We're not going to put anyone on blast or on spot, but we know who you are, and we thank you guys for that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, pat yourselves on the back, smile, and new members coming in, you'll spot the OGs of the Tap project easily. And like you said, we want to thank everybody and wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays and Happy New Year's and all that stuff. It's been a stellar year, so we're gonna continue doing what we do. We're gonna enjoy with our family for a bit, But like we said from day one, we're grassroots. We're just two co-founders that are trying to do something, that we know is much larger, and we're gonna give it the best we can. We're a gritty bunch. We've got gritty team members. We just grind it out, and I'm gonna finish off the 2018 year with it hasn't been said a lot, and it's sort of moved, but it hasn't changed. But fueled by gamers, inspired by the community, disruptive to all.
There you go. Tap into a world that's more than just gaming. Let's go.